at the same world through their respective belief system and glasses. So they're all seeing something completely different, and they're all interacting, and they're all seeing something completely different. Like they're watching different movies and interacting with each other in many ways. I think that's kind of weird and strange, but we're not. None of us is really seeing the truth because we're all
It,
blinded by our
it's
belief system. You know.
it's kind of interesting because it's not just Eastern philosophy, but like all of philosophy. Like that's what the Plato's, man in the cave.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, right? That we're seeing the shadows. We're not, and the shadows are like our own education or, things that we've learned. That's the shadow we are seeing instead of the real world, right?
And we're not really seeing.
Yes.
Because we're not really seeing the truth. And then the other thing that was interesting was like our expectations. So that was an aha moment for me because when I look at a setup, I expect it to go a certain way, and if it doesn't, I get upset. And
Yeah.
he is very adamant. He says that's the problem. You're expecting something to happen, but you shouldn't. No one knows what's going to happen.
Yes.
That 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 was a big one. Again, it's the belief. Well, first of all, you can see that you were just talking about uh, the, our belief system, but also it's the perception of the information, our paradigm, the way we see things from our own point of view, and that's a very important thing. And that's why we have markets, and that's the beauty of markets. I mean, I've talked about, again, this is an old adage. If you bring, let's say, the head of the central bank and you put them together in a classroom of 50 people or in a room of 50, he can tell you tomorrow he's going to raise the interest rates by 50 basis point. Most likely half the room will do completely opposite of what the other half is doing. So, and that's what creates the markets. So that's such an important thing. And that's what, there is no absolute truth, because the truth is our perception. There are facts. I mean, we talk about universe, and there is whatever, again, still, even we don't even know we exist, our physical body is still there. It's all space, right? So you're not, this is again a perception of who we are, but it is what it is. There's organs, but it's the perception of the markets which makes the markets, and that's what understanding is. And that really, one of the things I wrote, I'll share with you. This is another thing, he's so big on it. I think it's so, embrace uncertainty. And that's the human side, that we want to be perfect. We cannot, we want certainty, right? When we want to get into, and unfortunately in engineering, Peymanjan, it happens a lot. We want to get things really concrete. You've got to know all the facts. A mathematician wants to, we send to, NASA sent something to space, even within 10 years, they're like 1 millionth of a thing are wrong. I mean, they're so accurate. There's so much accuracy needed. But in markets, it's not. In human nature, it's not. So I put down, I assume 1 out of 3 or 4 would go wrong. When I put a trade in, I know that I probably will be wrong 25% of the time. So the ego goes out the door. I know my trade is not going to work 100%. So that way, that's how we do the stop losses. So, but also it doesn't hurt me, because it's all about, goes back to the understanding probabilities and the coin toss. And that's where the problem is with a lot of traders, which happened like 3 years ago with the easy money. They started winning, they got this overconfidence, and they thought, oh, things are not random in a sense. It's like, but the coin tosses, probability is independent of each other. So if I won 5 in a row and I have the momentum, that doesn't mean the sixth one I'm 100% going to win. So I thought this was, again, coming from my background, I truly embrace the understanding probabilities. It is all there is. So anyway, sorry, I didn't want to just take over because I want to follow up on what you just said.
And the other thing that I thought was really that made me understand is he says that if you might have the same setup over and over again, but no two setups are ever the same because the market's never, it's like a river, it's never the same. It might look the same, but it's never the same. So you can't expect it to behave the same way every time. And the way he explained it was if the price is at like equilibrium, you have the same amount of buyers and sellers, and all it takes is one person, one buyer to come to change that equilibrium. And that was like eye-opening for me. It's like, yeah, that's true. All it takes is one person or one investor to come, and it changes everything, you know.
Well,
And
I
it's
follow.
so.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was great. Like I think it's about page 96, 97 about this great analyst. He's a technical analyst. He comes
Yes.
into the brokerage firm. The guy who the head is, he's been there for 40 years, and he comes and says, "Oh, I have this magic, technical move. It's like point and resistance or something like that. It's like, if I'm not mistaken." And then it's about beans, right? He says, "I know if it goes to this point, it's the bottom, it's going to bounce back." And then the guy, the head of the CEO says, "Are you sure?" He goes, yes, that's what the market is going to do. And then he picks up the phone and he says, orders 2 million bushels of, he sells 2 million bushels of beans, and the market drops 10 cents. And then he goes, absolutely what you just said, Jean-Claude. It takes one player. We don't know who that player is. That's why even with the AI, that what we do, again, there's risk management. Putting the stop losses are very, very important, because there's nothing there. No system is guaranteed, because there's always one player who's going to move that market, and we don't know who. And that is that was one of the most powerful parts of the book, I thought. That was really important. It's because it's the humans at work, right?
And the fact that we're trying to get certainty, so we start getting more and more information and more indicators, and we do more analysis, and the more analysis we do, the more comfortable we think we are.
Yeah.
He basically
I do that sometimes.
Usually
I start looking at other indicators. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, because you're a very smart person, and usually, very analytical. So you want to, you think you can use your intelligence to control the market, but you can't.
Yeah.
And that's like he really like exposes all these paradoxes that exist in our heads, and he solves those paradoxes. Like, for example, when we have an expectation of, the market owes this to me, right? Well, he says, well, what if somebody told you that another trader, you are responsible for the other trader's actions? What would you say? No way, right? I'm not responsible. So how can you expect the market to be responsible for your actions? Because all the market is just a bunch of other traders. And you can never learn all the information there is, because every participant in the market is a variable.
Yeah. The other thing I put on the next, it was important. I did actually, I don't know if we did a class on that. Please refresh me. I think we might have, about fear, because it is, again, I'm talking about generally in life, it's always with us, right? So as a child, when we are born, basically there's only two fears: fear of falling down and the loud noises, right? So everything else is learned. It's our environment, it's our parents, our teachers. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. So we're constantly getting in our head about the fear. but he had a really nice, segment about, the fear. And I really liked that the 4 different kinds of fears that he put together. The first one was, fear of being wrong. And I know I've always had that fault, especially when you're like analytical, you want to be always right and correct. And the game is about probabilities, right? So that's why, again, I learned to embrace uncertainty, which was really difficult for me. It was very humbling. And then also the fear of understanding that I could be wrong. And that's the analytical side, right? It goes to that engineering mind and mathematical mind. In math, it is not, there is no fine, subjective point. It's all objective. And then so the fear of being wrong, fear of losing, because you don't want to lose. So that's another thing. The third one was the fear of missing out. That's a big one. The FOMO. A lot of people, especially young traders or the newer traders, they always on their toes. They think that, oh, if they don't get in, they're gonna miss out because they remember the past, or they remember somebody who got on Tesla or Amazon or Apple at that time, thinking that markets are perfect. And the fourth one is the regret, fear of getting out too early, thinking, and that's why I'm so big on having targets, and it gives us that freedom. So managing your your trade. And those are the 4 fears that he came up with. I thought that was really interesting. So about fear, because we have it with in soccer there is, and sports and life, we always had those fears, but this was interesting. Yeah.
But if you're feeling those fears, it means that you're not, I guess, in the zone. You're not. That's a signal that you have to like reassess your thinking, because you're obviously expecting something, and you haven't accepted the loss that you.
Correct. Very good point. Exactly. Yeah. And that is, yes, that's being in the zone. You will, and that comes to that the confidence which is built. And I put down to cultivate a winning attitude. So you don't have to be right all the time, and accept that it's not about being right, but it is about being confident in your system, confident in your trade, and have the composure. And I add in my class, not talking, I say competence, be competent. And that comes from the confidence in doing things over and over. So you don't have to be right, but have the right attitude. And that's when it takes you to the zone, and that's where the fear goes out. Because once I accept there's a probability, there's uncertainty, then that allows me to be open and accepting the risk in a sense. So, or here there's like understanding the risk. That's another thing. Risk is so important. And that's again with talking about gambling versus trading. That's where the lack of understanding about what is risk. It's more of just a excitement, not risk. So the other thing I really like is that edge. We talk a lot about that in our group. We want to make sure always, you've got to have that edge. And what is that edge? And I come with again the probabilities, and that edge is important. That's why it's gives us the system, and it gives us again that winning attitude. So and we talked about the belief and the discipline. That was another thing I thought that was important. Go ahead. I don't want to
He talks about once you have those beliefs, it's going to take some time to change them. And he talks about how to change them slowly, but surely you change them with little experiences of success every time, to counteract the old limiting belief.
Absolutely. Yes. That's because again, I think that story about when you're a child, a dog bites you, or a 3 or 4, and it's installed. You don't know. I do have, my brother-in-law, you know, Mary's brother-in-law. He's like, he cannot stand having the dog within, even hearing the barks makes him worried, or he gets. I mean, he's a little younger than me, big guy. He just can't stand the dogs. It's just that he had a bad experience as a child, and it stays
Yeah.
with us. It's very difficult to get that layer out, but it brings us to that belief. The other thing is, I think that was really interesting was the the 5 fundamental truths. We talked about the truth that um, to accept that these uncertainties in the market, that like I think you mentioned that, Jean-Claude, anything can happen. I mean, the market, I think it was you, and anything can happen, and we don't really have to know what's going to happen next, because nobody knows to make money.
Nobody knows.
Nobody
Yeah.
knows. So that was the other thing. And there's this random distribution between winning and losing, the wins and losses, accepting that randomness also. That was interesting. And then we talked about the edge. The edge is all about probabilities, probability of having one event over the other one. And that's what we look for. But that's all the edge is. And it goes back, I think, Jean-Claude, you also mentioned, every moment in the market is unique. No two people, no two events are the same, and that's the uniqueness. So that was really, really good.
And yeah, I mean, that's really profound, because, you see a Head and Shoulders and you think, oh, it's a Head and Shoulders, but it's not. It's a different Head and Shoulders. It's never the same Head and Shoulders.
Yeah, but like any pattern you see, it's just a pattern, you know, on a chart that we create in our heads, but the market doesn't obey patterns. It's just every event is its own unique event, right? Just because it shows some pattern on the chart doesn't mean, you know,
it's going to happen.
it's gonna happen. The past doesn't necessarily predict the future.
No, it just gives you the heads up. And that's one of the problems I have, like with Elliott waves. And we talked about Thomas Gann, for instance, and all these fans and other things. It's all subject to interpretation. And I know in Forex, there's a lot of these, we talk about Fibonacci, and there's people who come in trading, talk about Forex. They work on absolutes, they look at the resistance, the support, they look at, again, that the waves, or the ABC, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I brought 10 Elliott wave technicians, not one of them will be the same. Not 2 of them, I mean. There's just 10 completely different views. And then you get the times and the time frames. And that's why it is, again, I keep going back, it's the probabilities. It's all about probability, having the edge. And then also that mental state. He emphasized a lot about mental state, and you got to be aware of yourself. And I know, many years ago when we did our trading, the psychology, and one of the most important thing is knowing who you are, and that is, and I share it with my son constantly. You gotta see where you're coming from, because our trading styles are based on our belief system of who our personalities are as well. I cannot change, what is my root cause of things. I mean, I am as a personality. So I have to really work on the markets which meets my criteria, rather than forcing it on myself. And
You,
go ahead, Henry.
yeah, you really have to think about everything in terms of probabilities.
Yeah.
And then remember that even probabilities are subjective.
Yeah.
Because what you estimate the probabilities on, the information you put in, is also subjective, Right? It includes your own biases, even when you calculate the probabilities.
That's
I think.
that is true. And again, that's why like the machine learning sometimes, again, there's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm putting the wrong data, it's going to give me wrong sense. I mean, it's going to be the false sense of security because I put completely a subjective data based on what I chose, you know, or the things that I chose. And you've got to be very careful with that.
Even
And
even
probably
the right data will have, you know, a certain error rate
right.
that you have to take into account. So,
And that's the reason, you know, these Monte Carlo systems, they don't work all the time. And I know like a lot of insurance companies, for instance, they use that. And so in portfolio management, we use it, and hedge funds and other things. So it helps, but it's not, you know, it is very
Yeah.
subjective again, although it's all machines. So yeah, no, I mean it's one thing, Payman, what we have in our on our website with our subscription or the group that we are in, we have a Discord, and in Discord we actually have few videos of Mark Douglas. I think he's another thing. He's one of those few people that watching his videos are just absolutely comprehensive knowledge. I mean, he's not fluff at all. Like for 1 hour he talks, there's like full of information. And I'm like reading this book and listening to him. He was a trader, you know, he did start commodities trading in the 70s and 80s. And he is, you know, he's really knowledgeable. What, you know, he's done what he's talking about. And I've used some of his, you know, again, teachings in some of my own tradings. And so we have like those videos from him available, which, you know, Mehran, Matthew put together as well. So that's on our Discord. So it is, I think it's very useful. I think you guys have watched it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
It is.
it's really good.
And he, you know, he's not shy of sharing his knowledge. That's another beauty about Mark Douglas. It just, you know, he died too young. I mean, he was just, he was really was ocean a lot of knowledge, and it was more of experience rather than just theory. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of what he was teaching. So yeah, I would recommend, you know, again, are you Payman John, have you heard of Mark Douglas? Is there anything wrong?
Yes, Raminjan, I heard about him, and I know that he's famous in trading, and I'm very interested to visit these videos, and at the first time I will subscribe in the website, so it will be better to access the Discord and the datas and the videos. About the items you told, these are very interesting for me. And about the book, I think we can help you in translating this book in Persian, because Ghazale, my friend, now is with me and hearing you, and he told me that if it's okay, she wanted to say hello to you and the guys.
Okay.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
How are you? You're
Yes,
you're up late as well.
yes, I was listening to your valuable discussion, and I really enjoy. Hi John, hi Henry. Very nice to meet you guys. And although I don't have experience in tradings and digital, actually I don't know what can I call this business exactly, but I really enjoy to hear, listen, and educate in this field also. I don't know if you know about me. My education is in physics. I've studied physics in university. Yeah, I have a degree in bachelor degree in physics, and but I continue my job in business and business developing, and now I actually I know this field of markets. I'm very interested to get involved and learn, and I'm so happy to be in touch with you, Raminjan. I'm very glad that after years I can learn from you, and I can use your knowledge. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
That is
Jean-Claude.
awesome. Thank you so much, Raza. I really appreciate it, and thank you for your kind words. And
Yep.
yeah, we love to use your experience as well. And I think there's a lot of again room for you know, I guess in all the communities to expand our knowledge and share. So that's so important. And that's what I want. We chose, we had a TV show on like the top favorite books about investing and trading. And then our group, we sat down and we said, you know, once a month we do a book of the month meeting, and then we decided this will be a very timely book. And I think in many, as I mentioned, in many ways it applies to our lives. And the brilliant guy, and if the reading is pretty I think it's almost like storytelling, and that's the beauty of it. It's not technical. If I'm not mistaken, Henry, Jean-Claude, I mean, you agree that it is a good
Awesome.
Yeah.
read. It's a nice, it's not like academic, it doesn't have,
Yeah.
and it has a very nice flow. And that's another, again, he's a good storyteller. I mean, you look at him, you would not, again, he unfortunately passed away 3 years ago, and he was young, and was in his 60s, early 60s. But you look at him, he's not charismatic. He's not someone that you will say, oh my God, this guy, you know, he can sell anything. And but he is a great storyteller. And once you start listening to him, that has that nice flow. And his voice tone is not even, you know, that great. It's not like, again, it's not like Tony Robbins of the world. But I you know, you know, Jean-Claude and Henry would agree, watching the videos, it is captivating. At least for me, I would watch him over and over. And that's the reason we chose this book. And
Great.
a very good book. Again, we'll share it. Henry mentioned, you know, sharing with, you know, his son. I will share it with my son. I just have to force them because they're into FIFA, you know, they're into Xbox, and that's like, Dad, I need to rest. He says, my son says, I go to work every morning, come home at 4 o'clock tired. I'm like, what is work? School is work, man. It's like, I'm like, what do you mean?
He's right, it is.
So you know, I was like, I say, I love to go back to my days. You know, life is.
No way. I mean, John, no way.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, Dad, I'm tired. I don't want to read anything. I'm like, oh, come on. For me, it was escape. I love to read. And no, so if I can force him to read, this will be one of the books that I would definitely encourage him. It is a very good book. And
Raminjan, reading and, you know, learning is quite different from going to school. And
yes,
I can say that I totally agree with your son, and hope his school will be over as soon as.
all right, well, okay, because you're young. See, that's the problem. I'm coming from old school, and my son, they get bored too. I think, Henry, you've had that problem too.
Yeah.
Some of these subjects, unfortunately, is not challenging enough, and when you're bored, actually, it's worse than not, you know, having challenges of learning. And he just says, Dad, you know, this is just so boring. I can't sit there. And he's taking all these AP classes, honor classes, like, oh, Dad, it's just, how am I gonna end the day? So the only thing is he loves this. It ends at soccer. Even soccer gets sometimes boring for him. But anyway, so that's it. So if I can, and nowadays our youth is everything electronic. They want to get with TikTok environment that we are in. Everything has to be quick. Gotta get to that. So, but anyway, I'm going on the side notes. But anyway, this will be one book I will definitely. It's one of my top, especially in psychology. This is the best for investing and trading, but also life. So anyway, I'll be quiet. Anything? I'm so pleased to have you, Ghazali. You're such a good partner. It came up. Appreciate this. Thank you for
Thank you.
being
By
here.
the way, if you I'm so much interested to help you in translation any book that you want to translate in Farsi, in Persian, although you're definitely better than me in in English and just translating in Farsi. But if you don't have enough time and you need some help in it, I'm in. And I'm so interested.
Awesome. No, we will definitely discuss that because we have big plans. So I appreciate your support and definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Any other, Jean-Claude, any other comments? Henry, what else? Anything? Again,
just there was one other aha moment for me in the
Yes.
book when he compares, trading to gambling, for example.
yes.
And he says, well, in gambling, you actually, it's not like gambling, because in gambling, to lose, you have to make an active decision. You're an active participant and you're losing. You have to, each game, you have to decide to reach in your wallet and, give the broker more money. But in trading, you don't have to do anything. As long as you stay in the market, you can continue losing and losing. You can just do nothing and you'll still be losing. So it
Excellent.
actually requires action for you to get out of the market to not lose.
Especially
Mhm.
Andrew, when it comes to like margins or markets like futures, can kill you. I'll share just this one story with everyone, and I might have, but this was in the in financial crisis in 2008 happened, 2009. If you recall, the commodities actually after that in 2011 they really took off. The oil was going to the roof, and then basically before that, I know there was a very wealthy person. We used to go to these Persian parties, and then the person was shorting the oil. He said, "Oh, once it hits 100, it's gonna," talking about the belief system and all. "Oh, once it hits 100 and that perception, it's gonna go down." So basically, and they lived in Laguna Niguel, beautiful house, and he kept betting against it. And as you know, the oil ended up going to 147. You know what? He mortgaged his house because he did not have basically the heart and the courage to stop, because of the losses were just adding. And it goes back to what you just said. He just stayed in it. He said, it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. So basically, he lost the house. He lost his business. He lost his wife. And here was a very successful man who stuck to his belief that things are going to turn around. And that's the problem. Like you just said, gambling is an active, every bet you make, the outcome could go against you, but you know exactly how much it is. And then you continue, but it starts fresh, everything. With trading, especially futures, especially commodities, you are in a you're in a very difficult situation, and then it becomes that mental games, and then obviously it becomes the justification of your decisions, and then it's not. That's another thing he had talked about the fear and greed again, our natural, how the greed, but also that fear we just talked about, you continue to staying. And And the same thing happens in business, in careers. It happens in relationships. It's funny because I got I'm speaking in a conference in the beginning of October. Is about sticking around, even though you know things are not right, and you just keep sticking because you think things are going to change. And the same like with markets. Although your education, your back, or your knowledge, everything is telling you, no, this is the wrong decision, but that stubbornness, and we think that's loyalty, for instance. And sometimes
It's
in
also
markets, go ahead, Jean-Claude.
it's also the moment you take that loss, that's when you feel the hurt.
Yes. You
You
feel
don't want
that
to do that.
it is that pain. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we have, in options, as you recall, we have that maximum pain. Where is that maximum pain that makes this decision? And I've shared this story about a good trader friend of mine, and how he lost that $8.7 million in a gold trade. He could have cut his losses at 1.2 million, but he stayed in because he did not want to accept that he was wrong. And he kept staying. And then he said, Ramin, when I took that trade, I lost 8.7 million. He was in New York. I lost that 8.7 million. But once I hit that button to cover, and I knew I was relieved, because there was just so much pressure on me, the decision making, because I didn't want to I thought I'm going to be wrong. I kept saying that it's going to turn around, but it was a relief. And he did go on Central Park. He walked around for an hour, and he got angry. And he came back, and he wanted revenge. He lost another 1.2 million. And basically, he had taken $500,000 of his parents' money on part of that, and he was just very hurt. The good news was he was doing gold market, and he learned that he's very good at S&P futures. So the story ends well. I mean, 3 weeks later, he made 12.5 million. So life is okay. But that pain of accepting was bigger burden of losing that money. He said it was so painful to accept that he made the wrong decision, and he wanted to justify that. So yes, and that's what we stay in. And the same thing, my thing is, you feel committed because you think if you did not stick around, then you're a failure because you didn't give all you have. So, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, so anything else? I mean, this is, again, I think this is one of those books. Let me show you to Paymon. So this is the way the book looks, and it's not, it's about 200 pages, so it's not too long. And some of the pages I have, which is not good, I have like highlighted, but not everywhere. So because you don't want to highlight the whole book, but there are some places you can't stop highlighting it because there's just so many good stories there. But this is, it's only 200 pages. And then they also, I don't know if you took a test, in the beginning when they have a little test, and then you do it at the end. It's a little self-analysis, attitude survey, that first page. I don't know if you took it, but yeah, so he's a great guy. And Mark Douglas, anything you can find with him, I would definitely recommend. And again, about life. And there's so many out there. I know quite a few of these trading psychologists, and they're academic. There are quite a few of them. They have PhDs, and he didn't have a degree in psychology, but he became, because of his experience, he became, the brokers hired him to train the traders. And that's what was on hand. And he also traded himself. And that's the beauty of this. That's another advantage I think he has, because he's traded his, he's put on his own trades. So, all right. Any other comments or anything else? I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I'm so glad. I mean, this is, This is good to share.
Just 2 points, Ramin, like on a like more concrete level.
Yes.
So he talks about, so one of the things he says is, so don't enter a trade without having defined the risk and the stop loss. So your friend wouldn't have had the situation had he gone in with
Yes.
whatever he's, with the stop loss already, with a plan, as you say, always plan your trade. And the other thing is, he talks about what, 20 trades as a sample or something like that. So I had done that without having read the book, but I thought to myself, if I like look at 20 trades as a whole, I know, let's say 70% I'm going to have winners and 30% losers. So like in my mind, I know that out of 26 are going to be losers, right? And then so if you start having those losers, it won't affect you too much because it's part of the plan.
Excellent.
Look at it not on a trade by trade basis, but as on a portfolio of trades basis. Makes you think you think of it much differently.
And he makes a comparison a little bit about to a business. Like
Yes.
expecting not to have losses would be like, if you run a restaurant and you expect it not to buy supplies, basically. So that's how he looks at it. It's like a business expense, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. Exactly. I think that's another misconception we have, especially again with novice traders. They think that this is not really a business. This is like, oh, almost everything is guaranteed, because they hear all these, nobody shares their failure and bad stories. Everybody brags about their winnings. You go to the parties, and that's the misconception again. My son was saying, Dad, I think I shared with you, go on a yacht and then say how many millions you've made, and then you will get thousands of hits and millions of hits, and then you just collect, $100 from them, and you're like, because it's the perception again, right? So it's nothing to do with reality. It's and he says, oh, the young people love that. It's just the TikTok of the world. You can just go with the visually what they see. So one thing also, again, tomorrow's class is about gambling. In gambling, also, we look for shortcuts. We look for immediate results. The trading and investing, you are looking at the, like you just mentioned, Jean-Claude, it is the series of trades. It's a series of things that we learn from our mistakes. We build on it. No gambler, if you go play slot machine, you don't care what happened a day before, because it's an independent thing. You just don't care what happened yesterday. I lost 100. Well, I'm going to do another 100. And I'm going to do another 100. So it is nothing to do with life lessons. It's more of excitement, and it's just, just having fun, basically. So, and that's where the mistake is, thinking trading should be like gambling, which it is very close, by the way. There's that there's a fine line. Yeah. So, but again, I am so glad you have read the book and the Audible, and it is the book itself. I just really like the book. It's nice to highlight it, and it applies to also another good thing. Peymanjan Ghazalijan is, it's culturally, I think it is kind of acceptable in all the cultures. The only difference will be, I think, in the Western world, in like United States and like Canada and like Western Europe, there is structure. So we respect that structure, and he talks about discipline, and so there is a respect to that level. And here we make fun of like Wild Wild West, it's it's gone swinging, and there's no rules. Unfortunately, some of the developing countries, the mistake, and that's what sometimes it becomes a challenge. And I work with some like Indian traders, for instance, from India. It's like sometimes that structure is out the window, because anything goes, there's a chaos. and I think I used this before in Iran, just looking at the driving, there's
Yeah.
the order in the chaos. So people
Yeah.
all expecting the chaos, so they are all watchful. So when they drive, they don't have accidents. Here in America, if you have like I mean, you will have accident. You'll have hundreds of accidents in a minute because we don't respect that. We have order, and that's what sometimes is difficult to translate, that the psychology of actually managing the trades. And it happens in, you go to Egypt, is the same thing, Lebanon, driving is the same thing. And unfortunately, that's one challenge we might have. But other than that, the human psychology applies, I think, anywhere in the world. It's all about our belief systems. And
Yes, so true, Ramjan. One of the problem of Iranians in psychology and new cultures, new events, new everything that it's invented new in the world when it comes to Iran. At the first days, I can say, because it goes on very fast. But at the first days, there are some problems, some cultural problems, because people here, people in other countries, maybe don't know that how should they use that new things in every aspect of life, and cars, new applications, new everything new that invented in Western countries with certain cultural systems. When goes to other countries like Iran, may face some problems, something like driving systems in Iran. With as you said, we are watchful in the rounds, but when someone's that have lived in Western countries, Europe, America, comes to Tehran, comes to Iran, they just wonder that how we drive safe and we don't have any accident here.
yeah, and how you function even in the, you go to these organizations, and it's gotten much better, but staying in line and people push, and there's
Yeah.
and 5 people are asking one person the questions, and the person understands, she understands, like listens to all 5 of them and somehow handles them. But it's a very foreign to us,
Yeah.
in the Western.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully it will change in a good way, actually. So anyway, I'll really appreciate any the comments. If there's nothing, I'll really appreciate your input. Thank you so much for being part of this. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was useful, and we got something out of this book of the month. Again, I really enjoyed this book myself, and I've read it a few times. So, and I do apply it, and I hope it was an informative session. So
Also,
Thank you, Rami.
oh, thank you, Jean-Claude. Appreciate your input. That was awesome. Yes, Ghazali-Jan.
although we didn't access this book and we didn't read this book, we really enjoy and we learn from your discussion and enjoy your company, actually.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for being here again. I know it's like 1:30 or past 1:30 your time, so thank you so much for being here. And I enjoy your comments and your attention. Thank you, and sharing your thoughts.
Adversity to be at your sessions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Henry, I'll appreciate again your input. Anything else you'd like to share? Anything else?
I'm just wondering, so you'll be asking or you'll be getting input for the next book of the month, or
I like to do something. Again, you know, the list of the books that I shared, you can use that, or you can, everyone, you know, Jean-Claude did, you know, a newer, of course, a new book. If maybe we can put it in a, either in a Discord, or we can email it, just share with our group, and
Okay.
pick and choose, or, you know, on Wednesday or Thursdays when we meet, we can bring it up. So maybe next month we can come up with another, well, couple of weeks before, like beginning of November, maybe. Would you like this format? Should we have like once every 5 weeks or so? Is that a good idea?
I think it's awesome. You know,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
that's what I need
it's
to hear.
it's better than reading the book by yourself. Because
Yes. Well, there's a
it's-
purpose too, and also we see
Yeah.
different aspects, but also you notice in our, you know, group, there's a lot of commonality. So it's really nice to know that, you know, digestion was the right way. So, and that's the reason I love this book, because there's not a lot of room for misconceptions. So, but like everything else is about application of the knowledge, right? So we make sure we apply it in our day-to-day investing and trading. So awesome. So thank you so much. I'll appreciate it. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, Jean-Claude and Henry, and wish you a wonderful evening. Ghazal and Peyman, if you'd like to stay like a couple of more minutes, if you want to chat, I'll be more than happy to, if you like to. If not, I know it's very late, so we can
Yeah.
say goodbye.
Yes, Ramin, we will
Thank
happy.
you.
Jean-Claude,
Nice to meet you. Bye bye.
It was
Thank you.
nice meeting both of you.
thank you. Bye now.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let me stop the recording. Great, we just recorded this.